Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Snow West Show. We are starting our 4th year here, and we've got a lot of great content lined up for you in 2025. I'm your host, Ryan Harris. Real quick, before we get into this episode, the Snow West Show is made possible thanks to Polaris Snowmobiles. And for a limited time, Polaris is offering up to $3,000 off or 0% APR for 36 months, plus a 2-year warranty on select models. Now, 0% financing is pretty rare to find these days, so I'd jump on that offer. And these offers run from January 1st through February 28th, so start shopping for your next sled now. Go see your local Polaris dealer or find your closest dealer at Polaris.com. Also located in Big Sky, Montana, only 5 minutes away from riding areas like Buck Ridge and Cara Basin, 320 Guest Ranch offers lodging and accommodations for your next snowmobiling adventure. Single cabins and large full cabins with kitchens are available. Check them out at 320ranch.com. Also sponsoring the Snow West Show this year, Fly Racing. They're the #1 gear brand in Supercross and Motocross, and they are bringing that same product innovation to snowmobiling. Whether it's monosuits, helmets, boots, gloves, goggles, Fly Racing has you covered for your snowmobiling need head to toe. Check them out at flyracing.com or Fly Racing Snow on socials. And thank you to Deviant Inc. for supporting the show this year. Head on over to deviantinc.com and check out their custom wrap builder with their new interactive design tools that make designing and customizing wraps super easy. Their new colorizer tool randomizes color combinations until you land on the look that you love. Then you can try the design mixer tool to see all the Deviant Inc. designs in the colors that you've selected. Check all that out at deviantinc.com. Thank you for listening again, and now back to the show. All right, this is pretty impromptu. Hey, welcome to the Snow West Show. I'm your host, Ryan Harris. We're up here in Island Park. Hey, I forgot to ask a very important question. Is there an embargo on this stuff we just talked about?
No.
Like, we can talk about it right now? Okay. I should probably ask that before we started the show, but we'll just ask it right now.
Oh, yeah.
The boss man's right here.
Yeah, why don't you ask this guy?
Yeah, don't worry about him.
Oh, yeah. I was like, where's Rick? Oh, he's right here. All right, we're in Island Park. We are at the Fox Model Year 26 Snow Intro. Fox is coming back strong in a big way for aftermarket, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, man. Glad to hear it. All right, let me introduce everybody. Make sure I get everything set here. Okay. I did a show in November at the Idaho show, and we ran for 45 minutes. Oh, no. And I looked down, and I never hit record. And we literally had to redo the entire conversation.
Oh, jeez.
It was the biggest pain in the butt. So I'm pretty good at double checking that. All right, down there at the far end of the table, we have Skidoo racer, former world champion snowcross racer, Carl Kuster, Skidoo ambassador. Next to him, we have Tony Jenkins, also Skidoo ambassador. How many world championships do you have?
Amateur one. Okay. Definitely not an athlete. All right, let's talk about this athlete thing.
We'll get there.
Man.
Tony's got championships in dancing.
Hashtag athlete status.
To my left is the man, the myth, the legend. Everything that happens at the Fox factory as far as aftermarket snow shocks comes through this guy's brain, Rick Stroble.
Thanks.
What's your title there? Snowmobile product manager?
So I am a race manager. I take care of all the race for us on the power sports side.
But you do so much more than that.
I know.
You do everything.
But why do you need a title?
I don't know. I'm just...
Bigger title, more work.
Yeah, he don't need a title. You just got to know him, Rick.
Yeah.
Rick is a title.
Rick at Fox.
Yeah.
All right. The other half of Fox Racing here would be Chris Burandt to my right. Chris, you drove up from Colorado to Idaho.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot, and then
You did.
started a business and been married to that for a while. So it felt, to be honest, pretty dang good to get up here. It's been a while. We were talking about that. I think like Snow Expo days of me doing backflips, and so I missed it, man. And it's good to be here.
Last time you've been up here, the snowmobile hoods had hinges.
They did. They did.
Bungee cords.
A long time ago. And then over there on the end of the table, we have Arctic Cat, Black Cat, David McClure. Dave, kind of quiet over there.
I've never done a backflip.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow's the day.
No, those days are way long gone.
There's a road cut up there that I'm sure we could build a lip off.
No, jumping days are over.
Oh, yeah. So, hey, this was really going to be a podcast, but actually, Chris, it's an intervention. You got to stop buying old 90s snowmobiles off of Facebook Marketplace.
Why?
Oh, look at that guilty face.
Now, I'm done buying 90s, so now we're in the 2000s. So, okay, good. I'll agree with you. I'll quit buying the 90s, and now Now I'm buying triples.
All right. You have found now we're into the triple phase. That's going to be cool. You found a couple old race sleds.
Yeah. Dude, we'll have to have a podcast on the what's in the museum right now.
Probably shouldn't get started on that. Got to be at a PSI
1500. Yeah. The 1365, me and Carl were talking about that one. That's the cool one. I'm pretty
Carl's a
excited about
rolling museum of his own over there.
Yeah.
You two should have a podcast on
His
your own.
collection puts mine to shame for
I
sure.
don't know about that, but
Dude, how many containers of stuff do you have?
well,
Yeah,
I have
see?
a couple
Nobody
of things.
actually
You have
knows.
motorcycles and
Yeah.
trucks and snowmobiles.
Last year, Tucker Hibbert called me, and Tucker Hibbert can't just message a guy on Facebook Marketplace to buy an old EXT. So Tucker calls me, and I'm like dealing on this EXT down in Blackfoot, Idaho with this guy. And Tucker's like 500. That's as much as I'm going to go. And the guy was like 575, and Tucker's like, nope, 5. And the guy wouldn't sell it.
Did you tell him who wanted to buy it?
No. Like Tucker's like, you got to be low key. They didn't know who I was, but of course they knew who Tucker was.
Nobody knows you, Dave. Will you call this dude on Facebook?
Yeah.
Tucker's got a sweet collection, too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I imagine. Yeah, there's some stuff lingering over there. Well, Rick, give us a rundown here. So we're here now in the park because you guys put together your model year 2026 product launch, like we talked about. Fox Aftermarket's going to be back in a big way this coming season, and you released some new product to go with that. You've got lighter weight float line for Skidoo and Polaris.
Yep.
Sorry, Dave. Lighter weight coil line for Skidoo and Polaris.
Correct.
You're going to have some Lynx product coming later on.
Lynx is coming right about the same time as all of it.
So Lynx will be out before Arctic Cat.
Right now.
For now, yeah. And then the
digging on you.
The big news. Well, that's David. We go
He's
back.
durable.
The big news though is the QSE.
Yes, exactly.
So talk about that kit real quick.
We've been working with all of these guys and getting their feedback. And it's been a lot of talk about how the lockout is so much fun to use, but nobody wants to get off their sled anymore. They just want to do it from the handlebar. And so we put a lot of thought into it. How can we make this happen so that these guys don't have to get off and they can do it on the mountain? When you're in that moment and you just want to push the button, and it can be going up the hill, and like Chris said earlier tonight, it can be going down the hill too. And so what we did is made a single wire rear track shock called QSE that now does lockout at your fingertip.
And so it's two modes, right? It's
Correct.
just on or off.
On and off.
And the modes are what? What'd you say?
Yeah, party mode and get stuff done mode.
No, it was something else.
Well, and to Rick's point, and all these guys can attest to this, except Dave. Sorry. We've ridden IQS, which has been a fully functional system that had electronic control at your fingertips where you could adjust all 4 shocks, and so. Once you ride a system like that, it's really hard to go back because of like what Rick is saying. Hi, what's going on? Are we live?
Just keep talking. We're doing business here.
And so, the biggest thing was it was expensive. There's some complexity with the install. And there's still that customer. And so, we will still be offering IQS for next season. But, taking feedback from guys like Carl and Tony and myself and a lot of our consumers, just trying to get simplicity and some cost out of things. So, in the end, you just want the experience on the mountain to be good and to be better. And that's really what has created all the information for QSE.
So IQS is all 4 shocks. You have wires running all 4 shocks. You have an ECU motherboard, right?
Yes.
And you have a 4-position switch.
Yes, soft, medium, and firm, and lockout.
And that, like you said, I mean, that's everything you would want if you're really into this stuff. But a lot of people that are just general riders and your snowmobile public, they don't utilize that. Like they would buy an IQS, put it on there, and then probably not switch it after the first or second ride.
Yeah, and I think this you could probably get a bunch of different answers with this, but when I'm talking to someone on the phone and they ask, okay, what is this about? What is the electronic stuff or I think the biggest one is like on a QS3 air shock, just a standard, or a coil shock. I think a lot of those guys are the set it, forget it, and don't ever move a clicker. Don't ever do it. And which they're missing out on, like, just how valuable and how awesome it is to have adjustability, because, you know, and we talk about this all the time as riders, is that we experience so many different conditions, snow-wise, terrain-wise, not only throughout the season, but in a day, right? Like, you know, today we rode 6 miles of whooped out trail, and then we got into some beautiful untouched snow. And so, like, to ride the same setting suspension for those two drastically different conditions you're compromising one way or the other. And, you know, that's where having an adjustable suspension that's easy, not only easy to use, but easy to understand is key. And that's where, again, QSE, it's like party mode. Like 80% of the time you're just running around, you're doing wheelies, you have a nice, easy, fun, lightweight sled to ride. And then when you want to turn up the hill and go up, you lock that rear shock out and you win the line, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's how we've gone over and over and over, like, how to make this kit simple, more affordable, and functional.
And so this is just going to be a kit that comes with one shock, right? The rear track shock.
Two shocks.
Two shocks.
Rear skid.
Yep, rear skid only.
Okay, all right. So the kit is just for rear suspension. You leave your front end alone. If you want, you can throw some floats on there, lighten it up, or throw some coil spring shocks on there.
Exactly. It's up to you what you want to put on the front, you know. Again, we want you to put it together as a package because we tune it as a package. You know, the floats and the coils are all kind of a package. But again, you can just buy the rear kit if you'd want to too.
And there's two editions, right? There's the Chris Burandt version, because you're selling stuff out of your shop down in Colorado. And then there's the Fox Factory version.
Yep, there is. Again, there's a few other customers in that will purchase and sell them too from the factory series.
Okay. And Ice Age. Ice Age has been a big player in this too, right? They move a lot of products. So
yes, and Ice Age sells the Chris Burandt series. So they've been doing that for a few years now. And again, they're part of that team of Chris and them work together to help sell the Chris Burandt series here in the States.
Carl, have you been on this yet?
Yeah, we got to ride it today. So that was my first crack at it. So I really enjoyed it, actually. And it's nice to not have to get off the sled to touch the clickers, and you don't have to get your snow hand or snow on your gloves.
I don't know if anybody knows this, but Carl does not touch snow.
That was my hands.
Not with his hands. He will not touch snow with his gloves.
Because the hands just get wet and then slide off the bars, right? Especially when you're only hanging on with one.
I think you might have had to get your hands off the bars today, though, a couple times.
Yeah, well, maybe.
A couple ski poles.
Yeah, there was a couple ski poles.
Oh, yeah, Chris pulled me out today. We were doing some tree bashing. But, you know, in all honesty, it's really nice to just be able to hit the button and you just change the attitude of the sled instantly. You know, and that's where, like Chris said it already, so I won't go over it too much, but, you know, the IQS is a cool system and it does have its right customers, you know, but this is a lot, I think hits just a lot of broader audience, you know, and it's just simple. That's a beauty about it. It's simple.
So QSE, I mean, Chris, what you're talking about is a lot of Polaris stuff, but Tony, you mentioned something in that presentation in there. You had this kit last year on a Skidoo 154?
No,
or was that earlier this year?
Rick called me last year and said, I want you to come test something and see if you like it. Because I'm kind of the guy, you know, the IQS was really cool, but also I knew that the average consumer is not going to install it properly, and it's just going to basically cause issues later down the road. So he told me to show up, and he had a new product, which was the new product.
but so from a Skidoo standpoint, you were talking about how it just totally changed.
It did change the whole riding experience because, you know, 154 3-inch Skidoo turbo is a wheelie machine. That thing is an animal. It's always in party mode. And it was really noticeable, like if you're all of a sudden out of control and I rocked the switch the other way, it was like glued in, ready to go. So that was what was really neat about it. And the part that Rick was really cool to work with was the fact that the customer can order just the rear skid and not all four shocks. Because I want everybody to experience this, but not everybody wants to get all four new shocks. So it's a home run.
Dave, how bad do you want this?
So Chris is wrong because I did experience IQS last year when when I rode his sled.
Oh.
And so I'm like, I hop on his sled and instantly grab a handful of throttle on 900 turbo, and I'm going 900 miles an hour up this mountain. I get to the top and I'm about to wheelie over, and I'm like, oh, he's got like IQS. So I'm like fiddling around with all three buttons, and I'm like, now I'm like, QSE would have been, for me, the guy that hops on and 30 seconds later I'm on a foreign sled. QSE is the answer. So,
But to back that up, though, Arctic Cat does have IQS.
Yeah, and you've had some lockout stuff in the past too.
Yes, they do have lockout too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, they did.
Yeah,
It wasn't quite as simple as the 1, 2, 3, but yeah.
Hey, asking for a friend. What do you think of that factory turbo stuff?
Oh, gee.
My Speedworks turbo's coming out. It's going to be here soon, so it'll be just as good.
I'm sorry, Dave. Yeah, Carl, you built a crazy lightweight mod this year. Will you run down that real quick? Just like, how much weight did you pull out of that? What did you start
wasn't
with?
Super crazy, but we knocked 50 pounds out of it.
That's crazy.
It's a mark. It's not as easy to knock out that kind of weight on new sleds, regardless of brand. Like in the old days, you could do that pretty easily. But I built it for my wife, and we put a 925 in it, naturally aspirated, because we're just being ruthless on weight. So, yeah, it turned out to be a really fun sled. And she's got a broken arm right now, so it's actually my sled. For the first time in 10 years, I finally get to ride my own sled. Well, sort of.
50 pounds is significant, though.
Yeah,
how much are you pulling out when you're doing lightweight stuff?
We can get, and this is like what Carl said, it's getting harder to get that type of weight out. Yeah. But I have my big sled for this year. We're like literally a day away from getting it on the scale, but it should be about 50 off a 25 matrix, which that used to be easier. And it's I mean, this one has literally everything. It was completely stripped down, every single bolt. Carbon Sled is a partner that Carl and I use. They did an actual bolt kit that consisted of every single bolt on the chassis. And he said, this was, talking to him, I'm like, why would you do that? He's like, yeah, trust me, I don't know why I did it. But so every bolt,
So wait, how much weight does this save? The bolt kit?
4 pounds.
Yeah, no, it's probably. But are you doing more?
Why do you laugh?
Tony's one of those guys that's just
I'm just lazy. I'm like, whatever. Just let me ride it.
And I understand that. And people, a lot of people have that same reaction. But when you ride one, like here's the deal. Like, so if you go do a sled and you do a silencer and a hood and you knock 20 pounds off and you're like, oh wow, yeah, I feel a difference. You will, but like, at the level that we are as riders, in my opinion, every little bit counts. It's the only way to keep progressing the machines. Carl, I came up here to see you for sure. But when I found out Carl was coming up here, I really enjoy, we live like these two different worlds and we never get to hang out. And hell, this is only the second time we've ever got to ride together. Yeah. But I think we share a lot of the same passion. And one of the things that we were talking about today was how good the stock stuff is. But the reason the stock stuff is good is because I'm building a snowmobile that's 50 pounds lighter that you're laughing about.
The bolt kit, but it's hard because you can knock off a few pounds, like big pounds, silencer, titanium, and skid frame. It costs money. It's like putting a whole mountain bike under your sled, price wise. But everything after that, man, you just gotta double that. Like it is double the expense.
Yeah.
But that's the only way to pick away at it. After it is like 4 pounds here, 2 pounds here, 3 pounds here, 4 pounds on the shocks, 5 pounds, 6 pounds.
The worst part is when you lose the word pound.
Yeah.
And then you're doing grams and ounces. Yeah. But grams and ounces equal a pound eventually. Yeah. And it's that's the only reason that we are where we are from an OEM standpoint. I mean, I look at in 2016, 155 Axis was 408 pounds, 408. Like for a bone stock snowmobile, 408. And we with the Matrix chassis, we're a little away from that, but not very far. And it's fun to push the envelope because we all enjoy pushing our riding, but what is really, I feel like I can ride to the capability of a boost. I do personally. Like I get on it and I can hold it wide open a lot of places, and I cannot do that on a 387 pound 900 fire breathing boost sled that is way faster, and it makes me ride harder and be able to look farther ahead. And I love that aspect of it.
Dave, back in the Ascender days, maybe still now, but you were building you and Rob were building the wildest cat mods out there. And you were taking weight off, right? Was that a big focus of yours?
Yeah, I think where we really focused on the weight was on our race sleds. I mean, we'd spend days drilling holes and then chassis and I remember one time right before the Jackson hole I was pulling like too much weight out, and I had a problem at the starting line, and I was shocking Jason Nethercott I told him, I was like, just give me, like my power valves weren't working, I'm like, just give me high gear, man, just like Days of Thunder. I was like, I'll just hold it wide the whole time, so
That's awesome, man.
So how much weight can you save on the model year 26 coil shocks and float shocks?
So if you do a whole vehicle, it's like 4 pounds going from stock to our new, like about 4 pounds on the front.
4.5 on. So it was on the Polaris side of things.
Yes.
For a complete set, 4.5 pounds on the coils, 6.5 pounds lighter on air shock.
So if you've got like a 25K, if you got Cardi B,
yeah,
you got a 25 Chaos Boost 325.
Yep.
With the Walker Evans coilovers, you can swap those out for floats this next year.
On the model year 26, and you lose 6.5 pounds of unsprung weight, which is huge. It's big. Like that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. And I'm a big believer. We always go into these meetings with the OEM guys, and it's the same round table every year, right?
No.
You sit down. What do you guys think we need to do? What do you think of what we've done? Where do we need to go? First thing in with us is just weight. Pull more weight off. Figure it out. Take every part and shave 10% off. Mm-hmm. Find it. Figure out a way. When they do it and then they bring something to the table, it just works so much better. Yeah. So we've always pushed that, especially in the mountain stuff, because you're always fighting gravity. You're always fighting snow depth. You're always fighting a lot of elements that no other
age,
altitude,
age and ability.
Yeah, but
that's why you build a lightweight sled. You ride at 12,000 feet.
Yeah.
This guy, he rides at like what, max elevation 6,000?
Well, yeah, a little bit more, but pretty much it's low.
Yeah. I don't know. So I agree with you, because that's something you said. Like that's a direction that the manufacturers can keep going. Like we've reached so many pinnacles in this industry in the last 4 years with factory turbos and chassis, and we're not going to get new chassis every 4 years.
Yeah,
like we used to.
No, those days are gone.
Yeah. We're just going to get refinements and keep going that way. And Dave, I sincerely hope that you are back on a brand new 26 Cat six months from now, 8 months from now.
We all do.
Yeah, I hope.
We all want
I
that.
hope.
Maybe it's a 26 Argo. I don't know, but so you're back on something here.
He
soon.
just smiling. I
As long as
know
it
it's in
doesn't have
between
6
those.
wheels.
I don't know. We'll get there. So you guys are going out and riding again tomorrow?
Yeah.
When you all, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when you guys get together as athletes and the occasional ambassador, what are those rides like?
Well,
It's been a while since I've ridden with Chris.
Yeah, it has been. It's been a long while. I guess here's what I always have these ambitions of is that, like, no cameras, no GoPros, and just ride. That's like a pipe dream, right? Just to, like, I mean, today we had this agenda, and all I wanted to do was, like, do one go do one line with Carl, and we couldn't even get one line. You know, it was like, well, we got to get back for interviews, and I'm just like, fuck these interviews. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, you know, and I enjoy all parts of this industry, and I'm very appreciative. But you know, the one thing that why I'm glad I'm here is I get to ride with my buds. You know, like I hope we can just go and show people that we really do love snowmobiling.
Yeah.
Like that's I mean, this is a job. Like,
Well, and I met you, like 14 years ago.
long time. Yeah.
And people don't realize how much work you still to this day put in. Like you eat, breathe snowmobiles. And, you know, back in the day, everybody was like, oh, I want to be Chris Burandt. Here's my keys, bud. Try it for a day. I don't think there's anybody that would last a week in your shoes. Not because your skill level of riding, but just the amount of shit that you have to do in a week.
Well, I will tell you, you know, that pace from like 2005 to yesterday, today, it's a lot. And, you know, I get this question a lot of how do I get into the snowmobile industry to make a living like you do? And, you know, I think there's two answers. My knee-jerk reaction is like,
Don't.
dude, go to school, get a high-paying job, and go buy sleds and go ride whenever and wherever you want for, like, just go do that. That's
so much easier.
That's my knee-jerk reaction. But then at the same time, you know, all of the things that have gotten me to this point has been very rewarding. And the step number one is work your ass off, right? Yep. Nothing replaces work ethic. I love all the people that I've met along the way. I've made bonehead moves and mistakes and you know, learn from those. And it's really helped me in life, right? Like that. But full circle, the biggest thing is there's a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of sacrifice of my relationship with my wife, my time with my kids, and all of that. And so, like, over these last, I would say, 2 to 3 years, and especially this year, and every year gets way better, my priority no longer is to make sure I have enough content and we sell enough stuff and all of that. Not that I could care less, don't get me wrong, but my focus is I owe the people that have helped me get here, my wife, it's a lot on it. She has sacrificed everything for me to be able to do what I've done. And so now the snowmobile part isn't as rewarding as it used to be, which is fine, and I'm okay with that. I really love snowmobiling, obviously, but I really enjoy trying to make up for all that time that I should have been doing something just a little different, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it shows. I see you on social media having way more fun. Like, it looks like, well, obviously the vintage thing is your escape, but it goes to play like Kuster. I mean, you look how much work when you go visit him.
Sleeping on the couch.
You're sleeping on the couch, yeah. It never ends with him. Like it's, and same with Dave. Like, Dave has a full-time job. I have a full-time job, but these two work 5 times harder than me and Dave do.
Well, I don't know about that. But I was going to hop on Chris's train of thought there is, you know, it's cool. Like, now your boy's old enough, he's ripping on the sled, and your daughter's on the sled too.
Yeah.
And, you know, and when you build projects for people, like, even for me, I built a little 600 for Carver, and we took 75 pounds out of it, you know, and it was like, it's, you know, and for me, it's probably fragile, but he's only 120 pounds and he's not crazy aggressive, so it works for him, you know. Like, it's not something that I would take out and weigh out in the backcountry, you know. It's a little fragile, but for a little guy, like, man, it's cool to watch him progress, and you know, and they're like, you try this and you try that and you learn, and then some of the stuff you can put on your own stuff or you know, filters down, but it's that's a gratifying thing too, you know. It's like when you get to go and spend the time with them and watch them reap the rewards of all the hard work that you did, right?
Yeah.
So you got 4 pro riders, athletes here, guys that are making a living doing the sport, getting sponsored by clothing, sponsored by aftermarket parts, sponsored by OEMs, Fox Shocks, and then you've got this guy here that is just grinding it out, day job. But what is a typical day like for Rick Stroble? Out in, like when you come out here and field test, you got the semi truck out here, you got the trailer. What do you do?
Well, it usually starts a lot calling back to the shop, figuring out what's going on there first in the morning because of the hour time difference. I can talk to those guys at 7 o'clock in the morning here, figure out what's going on out there, figuring out what's getting built, where the problems are, concerns, questions, emails from you guys, trying to do that in the morning, trying to get all of that cleaned off because when you get on the mountain, it's hard. We're all like checking our phones and stuff like that. Well, a lot of times you can't do it because you don't have cell phone service. Here it's pretty good. A lot of places we go, we don't have cell phone service. So you have to do it all before you go out in the morning. But again, when we come out here, it's a lot of grinding of riding sleds, changing shocks, pulling shocks off, putting shocks on. I have guys that come with me and help a ton, right? I have a really good team that really digs in like I do and just grinds away day in and day out, working on shocks, talking on the phone, talking to these guys. Sometimes I even have to talk to customers, right? Because somebody has a sled, they're somewhere and they're having a problem. And our team, they're like, here, call Rick. He'll know what to do. Figure it out. And
everybody else is like, call Rick.
Yeah, and I do, right? Because again, it's very important to us as a company is to make the best product and have good customer support. Again, we're all human. Things happen, right? Things happen on a daily basis that we can't control. But as long as you react and you fix it right away, everybody's normally pretty happy about it. And that's what you got to do. You got to jump on it and fix it.
Rick, how long have you been with Fox?
April will be 20 years. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. 20 years I'll be
That
there.
just shows your dedication.
Yeah. Yeah. I've watched all of you guys all have kids, right? And watching that is fun, right? I enjoy what you're doing and what you're doing and what you're doing and getting them in the snowmobile and seeing what they're coming and how they're progressing with it. It's awesome, right? It's so cool and it's so fun because that's what the sport's about, right? It's family and it's growing the sport with family because that's what everybody does, go riding together.
Every one of us started on snowmobiles as kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and like a couple hours ago, I was riding with my boy, and I was just like, man, how would it be to start on a 600 Alpha?
Yeah.
Like that sled is so easy for him to ride.
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's fun, right? It's so fun to watch that. Just the growing up and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fun. Hey, if you're listening at home and you want a cool little backstory, if you're on YouTube, scroll down a little bit, find the podcast we did with Jack Struthers. Jack started out with Bob Fox, who was one of the original Fox brothers. And if you don't know that backstory, the Fox brothers, at one point, the two Fox brothers, Bob and Jeff, started Fox Racing, which is the motocross gear company, and Fox Shocks, which is this shock company, Fox Factory now. And split off there. And so if you've always wondered, like, why are there two Fox brands? Well, that goes back to brothers that started this company.
Yep.
Jack Struthers started out racing the I-500 and came looking for shocks, called up Bob Fox, and kind of over the course of a couple of years, brought Bob Fox to snowmobiling. Yep. And it's been kind of a core aspect of Fox Shocks ever since.
100%, and that was the thing is back in that day, the shocks there was no high pressure gas shocks, right? And they were not good quality and everything got hot and faded and all these things and had all these problems. And Jack wanted a solution and knew that Bob was making stuff for motorcycles and he knew they were getting hot. They needed a good performing shock. So Bob at first, living in California, like, who's this guy about snowmobiles, right? And I know Jack's done the whole thing and Bob will tell the story too. He's like, I've talked to him about it and it's funny to listen. It's like, this guy at a snowmobile, he wants shocks. What does he need shocks for a snowmobile for, right? And it's a really cool story. And Jack to this day, I talk to him, not a lot, but every once in a while I'll talk to him, and it's fun just to catch up with him. And again, he's a lot of reason why Bob today has been so successful because snowmobile's our first OEM. That's the first OEM business we ever got was an Arctic Cat snowmobile.
Well, and it's funny because if you follow the snowmobile industry and you get to know some of you guys, the people that are most successful with racing history or the most successful riders, the Keith Curtises, the Chris Burants, they all focus heavily on suspension.
Yep.
Like everybody else just kind of overlooks this and they go after the lightweight cans and the wraps and everything else. The guys that are winning are going after suspension. Like it's a high priority aspect.
100%.
Yeah.
You know,
I think one thing that's been really enjoyable is, I spend a lot of time on the consumer side of things, whether it's on the phone, on the snow, setting guys' stuff up over the phone when they bought a set from us. And it's pretty neat to, it's a big investment. And how I always talk about it is, if you're going to go spend whatever, $3,500, it better be a big difference, right? And if it's not, then, you're not going to come back. But I think that's where, we have such a passionate customer, because once you've experienced real suspension, that makes your experience better on the snow, it's hard to go back. And I think that's kind of coming back full circle too about what our goals and ambitions for 2026 was to the gap between the stock shocks.
You at the dentist over there? What's going on?
The gap between the stock shocks and aftermarket shocks has gotten narrower, and it was Rick and I's goal to let's make this big again. Like let's make it a giant difference, and that's what a lot of people are going to see for 2026.
Well, I'm excited about that because Fox has been such a big vibe. I was showing Mark and Lars a minute ago. Like I got invited out to this Super Duty event in Kentucky a couple years ago, and I wore my Fox hoodie. Yeah. It's got holes in the sleeves. Like it's just my uniform, and met up with Jim Farley and Ted Canis from Ford and the governor of Kentucky, and it's like, yeah, look at that Fox hoodie right there. Like it's just this vibe. It's just such a cool vibe, and it transcends different industries. Yep. It's mountain bike, it's Razor, it's off-road, it's Raptor, it's Snowmobile. It's just such a cool brand, and to hear that you guys, it was kind of a struggle through COVID.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you guys took a big hit.
Yep.
But to hear that that's ramping up and that's coming back, like it just gets me excited.
Well, the cool thing is what we've really are focused now, getting back to grassroots. Again, we did events this year, grassroots on the ground. We did an event with Chris. We did an event with Dan. And again, we're just trying to get back to our core. Fox has gotten bigger, but we're still the same company. We're still the company that really believes in our product and really wants to make it better. And we want to get out and hear from our consumers what we need to change. What do we need to make it better? Because again, we don't know everything. It's from everybody giving us feedback, and that's what we need.
All right, so if you got any questions about shocks, just call Rick.
Yeah.
He'll answer.
No,
Put your phone number out, I dare you.
no, I got enough calls.
I'll throw it on there, okay? We're at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah,
He
all the
doesn't
way
even
down.
answer my phone calls.
Me
Go all the way down.
That's because you don't pay. That's why.
Oh, yeah.
All right, everybody, thanks for listening. If you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way for us. Go to snowwest.com, subscribe to the magazine, check out our merch. Just appreciate the support. Love that you guys are listening to this, and that it helps us go out and do more of this content, which is so fun to put together. But Carl Kuster, Tony Jenkins, Rick Stroble, Chris Burandt, Dave McClure, thanks for coming on the show, and thanks you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.